Welcome back. And I want to take one moment to apologize because that last episode I did, apparently the audio and the video were really bad in that. I don't know what happened there. That was not the quality that I uploaded when I uploaded to YouTube. So I don't know, something happened in the upload process. I usually go through and preview after I upload a video, watch it, at least watch part of it. It's kind of skim through it, make sure everything looks good on there. I was in a rush when I did that one. I didn't preview it. And of course, that's the one that has issues. I didn't know until someone reached out and commented to me about it. And I looked at it. I was like, man, that is pretty bad. But at the time, I wasn't able to go back and redo it, so I left it. It's still a learning experience for me with this, so bear with me on that. I appreciate you guys. I didn't get a whole lot of negative feedback on that, which I really do appreciate. But I do appreciate those of you who do point out things. If you see something that's a little off, don't hesitate to let me know. I'm a big proponent of constructive criticism, and that's one of the things I want to talk about here real quick as well. Is I've gotten a lot of feedback for not a lot. I've gotten some feedback from you guys. The voice of the minority is usually louder than the voice of the majority, which means, a lot of you, if you like the content, you like where it's going, you don't say anything. And I understand that. I respect that. It's the people that don't like the content or have issues have the loudest voice. And I've gotten some feedback that says that I've been really too negative, that I seem to be attacking the ACL and the ACO, and all I'm doing is complaining and criticizing what they're doing, and I'm not really being that positive. So I want to make this episode on more of a positive note. Now, I will say in my defense on that, and as I mentioned, is I do believe in criticism, and I feel like if you surround yourself with people all the time that just tell you all the good things you're doing and never tell you the areas that you could do better or where you can improve, you're never going to be the best that you can be. You always need someone in your life who's going to be honest with you and is going to be straightforward and is going to tell you what you don't want to hear. You need that person. And sometimes you need that person more than you need everyone else who's trying to pump you up. It's nice to have people telling you how great you are and always being positive and always lifting you up. We love those people. But if you listen to the people who are telling you what you're doing wrong and you work on those things and fix those things, that's going to help you become a better person overall. And that's kind of what I want to do here when I criticize the sport of cornhole, whether it's the ACL or the ACO, or when I'm doing a review and I'm talking negatively about a bag. It's nothing personal, and I'm not trying to attack that company. I'm not trying to attack that league. I'm sharing my opinions, my thoughts to say, hey, this is where I think this is the problems I see with this bag. This is the problem I see with this league. This is the problem I see with this event or this structure or this format that's going on. And this is why I don't like it. And sometimes I'll share this is where I think it should be improved. I don't always have a solution, which I've had managers in the past who've always told me, if you don't have the solution, don't bring me the problem. Don't tell me a problem without offering me a solution. I'm not that way. I don't believe that is always fair to people because sometimes you're in a situation where you can see a problem, but you don't have a big enough picture to know how to fix it or to know the solution, but you do know that something's not right. And so I'm always one to tell people, I tell my employees, I tell people around that if there's something that you don't like, don't hesitate to tell me. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. So, and I prefer it to be done more constructively than negatively, but I still want to know the negative sides, and that's kind of what I tailor this around. So when I'm out there making comments, or I'm not really attacking the league, I'm not really attacking cornhole, I'm not attacking the bad companies. I'm offering my criticism, and I'm comparing it, saying this is what I don't like, and this is why I don't like it, and hoping that if for me, the success of this channel is dependent on the success of the sport of cornhole, which means I rely on the ACL, I rely on the ACO, I rely on these leagues, I rely on the sport growing, and so I want to see them succeed. But that also means that sometimes I don't agree with the path they're taking, and I'm going to share that. And I hope those leagues, I hope they listen to you. Like we're the customers, we're the people that support the leagues. We are the growth. Without us buying the bags, without us watching the sport, watching the live streams that are on YouTube and Facebook, without us watching the ESPN and CBS Sports Network streams and telecasts, without us buying the products and supporting these companies, there is no sport of cornhole, right? I mean, it's still there, I guess. You can say it's no sport. The sport's there, but the pro side of it is it. The pro side has gone away without us supporting it. So I would hope that the leagues would take the criticism, mine or yours or whoever's, and at least consider it and decide, hey, you know what? That's legit. We need to fix that. Or you know what? We understand that, but that's something we're not worried about, and push it aside. But I hope they take it that, and I that's my intention of that. So when I attack them, I'm not trying to be just negative and mean to these to the especially I get a lot of hate saying that not a hate. I get a lot of comments saying that I'm hating on the ACL, and that's not what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to offer ways to improve it. So anyway, I want to make this episode a little more positive. So I got a few things I want to talk about here. I've got my notes off to the side. If you see me looking over here, it's my notes. But the first ACL Open is this weekend in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Touch on a few things about that. I want to touch on the ACL teams event, kind of tied into that first opening weekend. I want to talk about some ACL players and some teams that I want to watch. Some things that I'm interested in. Some players in new places, new partners. Some things that I want to watch to see how they play out. And then lastly, probably the most important is I want to do a bag makers championship. I guess I would call it. I don't know. I got an idea in my head of how I want to structure a championship for the bag companies, and I want to talk you through that. I kind of want to brainstorm, spitball with you guys. I'm going to share with you what my thoughts are to it, how I want to structure it, how I want to score it. But I want to get your feedback on that because this is all new to me. I probably should have planned this out a little earlier, but it's something that kind of came. I took a vacation last week. There was probably not as much content out last week as you're used to, and that's why I was on vacation last week. Took a little trip down to the beach, and during that time, I was thinking about this, and it kind of came to me like I would love to structure this in a way that would be fun to kind of follow along and stick with me on this. As I get to the end, I'll dive more into that, explain what it is. I'll say my thoughts. We'll talk about it. But first, let's jump into the ACL and their first open. I guess their season starts this weekend, Rock Hill, South Carolina. It is the brand new shootout format. So I'm curious I'm excited to watch that because I want to see, I've been vocal saying I don't like the shootout format, but I want to see how an entire open plays out with that format. Just I want to experience it. I want to see it. I'm going to watch it. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts after this weekend if you're watching it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whatever. I just want to hear your take on that. I'll probably share my take on it in the next episode of this podcast here when I come out with it after that happens. This weekend is also the teams draft at the Open this weekend. They're going to be drafted. The ACL teams are going to draft their new players, the incoming pros, which means the rookie showcase is happening, which was, I think, brand new last year. ACL didn't broadcast. I didn't know anything about it until we started talking about it during the team's draft. I really didn't know what it was. I don't know if they're going to broadcast it this year. I really hope they do. If I can pull it up here, they're just going to do different skill challenges for the new players coming in with different, they're going to do a series of airmails, pushes. They're going to set blocks up and have them get around them. They're going to, they're going to run deck rounds, a 12-round deck round to see what they shoot. There could be different situational things they're going to have these rookies do to, and the teams can evaluate them and determine how they want to rank them, because there's a lot of new pros coming in that maybe these teams don't really know all of them. So it's an opportunity for these rookies to showcase who they are. It's an opportunity for the teams captains to see these players for the first time, maybe in some cases, and determine the order of how they want to rank them and where they want to go. Now, I would love to see that broadcast. I think that would be fun to watch. It'd be interesting content. It's like not everybody's going to want to watch it. It's like the NFL Combine. Not everybody likes the NFL Combine. I do enjoy watching it because I like to see where the potential rookies are, the potential players to watch are coming in. And so I think that would be fun to see if they would stream that in some way whatsoever. On the team side of it, I am curious to get your guys' feedback on the overall teams event. Do you like it? Do you not? I know I've kind of shared my thoughts on the format. I don't like the round limited. Not a big fan of the format. I think the teams aspect could work. I would honestly love to see the ACL go more. I know some people who are golf fans may not like this, but I kind of like the live golf model, where live golf has teams. I think it's 4 players per team. I think it's 4. And they go out and they play a tournament. They just play a regular golf tournament, but it's the overall scores of all 4 players in your team that determine how the teams fare in that. And I would love to see teams draft players, and then as the players go play in these opens and the nationals, which are now, I think, signature events, go play on those, how they score in that's how the team gets points. And you can evaluate players that way. Now, I get with doubles, it can be a little tricky because sometimes you may have one partner on one team, another partner on the team, but maybe both partners, both teams get points if they score, something like that. But I think if there's a way to incorporate the teams into the regular play, that I think you would draw more interest into it than making it a separate thing altogether, because it can be kind of difficult to follow. I know as the ACL goes, they're learning, and hopefully this year they're a little bit better about putting more information out there, a little better about keeping us updated on what's going on, knowing when to watch these teams events or when they're being aired. Hopefully that'll happen. But curious to get your thoughts on, do you like the teams event that's going on? Are you what if you don't, what would you like to change, or how would you change it? What do you think would work better? If you do like it, I'd like to know what you like about it or what you enjoy, if there's anything in particular. Just looking for your guys' feedback on that. It's interesting. Cornhole is not really a team sport. It is more of an individual sport, except for doubles. Doubles, you kind of have your partner there. That's not really a team event. So it's interesting to see the ACL trying to turn it into a team event. And I'm not opposed to that. I think that could work in some situations. Again, I think there needs to be tweaks to it. I'm curious to see if you guys have some great ideas out there that maybe I'm not thinking of, maybe the ACL isn't thinking of, that we could, share or talk about, and maybe find a format that works well for the team's event that makes it interesting and exciting for everyone to watch. The other thing I want to talk about are players that I'm excited to watch the ACL for this coming year. And there's some new teams out there, or some new partners that have teamed up. And there's some players that have switched with bag companies. Curious to see how the transition is. I know people say that a pro can throw any bag. To some degree, that's right. But the right bag in that pro's player's hands is going to make a big difference, as opposed to putting the wrong bag. And sometimes players get bag sponsors from companies that don't make bags that really fit their play style. And sometimes that forces that company to make a bag to fit them, or that player struggles sometimes, or they have to adapt to a different bag. So I do think bag choice is very important in the success of these pro players. And only because at that pro level, there's such a fine line between winning and placing 20th, right, or whatever. There's not a big difference in that. In a game to 21, a couple points here or there can make a difference. And the wrong bag choice you can give up points just by not playing the right bag that fits your throw style, or the wrong bag that doesn't match up with the board conditions or whatever. And so I do think bag choices matter. I'm interested to see how some of these what bags some of these players choose because of the companies they went with. But the players I'm looking forward to watching the most, one is Ryan Hart. I'm really interested to see how Ryan Hart does, because I feel like Ryan Hart kind of got dumped on this year, and he was playing with Jeremiah Ellis. They were one of the best doubles teams out there. I mean, they won a national. They were pretty. They had a really successful year. They didn't win the world championships, right? But only one team does, right? Birchfield and Hissner were the only ones that could win the world championships. Every other doubles team failed to do that, but Hart and Ellis were right. I think I mentioned before, I think they finished first or tied for first, or maybe even second in rankings from double teams in the ACL. They were right up at the top. And then the Ultra came in and kind of, I hate to say it, kind of demoted Ryan Hart. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, maybe I do. They demoted Ryan Hart. They put Devin Harbaugh. Basically, Ultra said, we think Harbaugh is a better player than Hart. We want him up there with Ellis. We're going to put Hart down here with Chris Roybal. And not to take anything away from Chris Roybal, but he's not Jeremiah Ellis. He's a great player in his own, and I think him and Hart can have a lot of success. I could see them winning the first Open. I could see them winning multiple Opens. I could see Hart and Roybal winning a national, or a signature event as it's called now, and it would not shock me. I'm curious to see how Hart takes this, because I really want him to say, you know what, I want him to go out there kind of with that FU mentality to Ultra and say, you know what, you demoted me, but I am your A player, and I want him to go out there and have success. I want him to go out there and show Ultra that not that Harbaugh was the wrong choice, but I want them to say, hey, you should have left me there. I'm just as good, if not better. So I'm curious to see how Hart responds to that and which direction he goes with that. The next thing is actually a team, and that's Alex Rawls and Derek Holland, kind of for the same thing with Ryan Hart. Right? Rawls and Holland, to me, were the A team, the number one team for AAR Cornhole last year. I know they had Jacob Trzynski and Tanner Halbert in there, but to me, Rawls and Holland were the one, Trzynski and Halbert were the number two team. AAR then brings in Jamie Graham, pairs him with Jacob Trzynski. So now Graham and Trzynski are the number one team. Rawls and Holland get kind of bumped down to the number two. And again, how do they react to that? How do they take that? Is this going to be let me show you we are the number one team for AAR Cornhole, and see how it goes? And this is also about team chemistry, right? Rawls and Holland have been together. This is the second year they're playing together, so there should be more chemistry. Whereas Graham and Trzynski, this is their first year. So where the chemistry is going to take some time for them to build up. So can Rawls and Holland come out I suspect they'll come out. Rawls and Holland will come out with a better first open because they've been playing together. They know each other. They're comfortable with each other. I think Graham and Trzynski may get there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them struggle along with all the new teams, the new partners. Wouldn't be surprised to see them struggle because there is a little bit of a learning curve when you're playing with a new partner. Some of the partners have been playing together in some non ACL events here this summer, but I don't know how much they played together. And with Trzynski and Graham not being from the same area, I don't know how much they played together, at regionals or other events, if they played together much at all there. So curious to see the chemistry on them. But I want to see Rawls and Holland. I want to see them step up and say, no, we are the number one team in AAR this year. I don't care that you brought in Jamie Graham and you paired him with Jacob Trzynski. We're still the number one team. They're going to be the number one two team. So I'm curious to see how that happens. The next team I'm interested in is Mark Richards and Tony Smith. This is their second year together. They were the super team last year. They were the team everybody said, oh, this is the team that's going to dominate. They're going to win everything. Two best players in the world. We're going to put them together in the same team. And it didn't really happen. They had success. They didn't have the success that I think people expected them to. So in some ways, last year was a bad year, a letdown year for Richards and Smith. Again, I attribute that to team chemistry, and that's where I think this being their second year together, I think that chemistry is starting to build. It should be building. I really do feel like that they can work well together, so I'm curious to see if they take that next step this year and become that dominant team, become that team that every open that they're at, you see them in the finals. You see them winning multiple opens. You see at the signature events, they're winning their brackets and they're competing and even winning some of these signature events throughout the end of the season. And seeing them at the World Championships, they're the favorite. Like they should be the number one team. They should be the favorite every event they go to. I think started out last year they were, and then eventually they kind of fell off because they didn't have that success we expect them to. So I'm curious to see how they respond to that. And do they take it to the next level or do they still struggle? That'll be interesting to see. The next player I'm interested in is Jay Rubin. For those who don't know, he's back this year. He got his pro status back. I'm sure he's been playing cornhole, but he did take a year off from the ACL, a year off from the pro division. Doesn't mean he wasn't necessarily playing at a competitive level. I don't think he was playing as much as he probably was when he was a pro. So I'm curious to see as he gets back into the groove of things, one, how many tournaments he goes to, how many events he plays in. Two, is he rusty? Does he still have it? How much, sometimes a layoff can help you. Sometimes a layoff can impact you, and it takes you a while to get back to where you were. So curious to see where Jay Rubin is, as well as he's partnered with Ryan Trader this year. And they announced the partnership a while ago. They just announced today that they're going to be throwing all cornhole this year. I'm curious to see which bag they throw. That was one of those companies that when I saw that, I'm like, man, all cornhole, what bag is Trader and Rubin going to throw? And honestly, I look at the two, Trader and Rubin, and they have a little bit of a different play style. Although I think Rubin can throw, and I know Rubin can throw a slower bag. He's fine with that because he can throw the blockers up there and then just airmail over it and play that way. Where Trader's more of the blocker, and then the roll is the cuts, more of that dirty shot shaping style game. I can see them both playing a slower bag. I'm just curious to see which bag in the all cornhole lineup that they choose to throw, or does all cornhole come out with a new model this year designed for them to throw, which is probably where I don't know if that's going to be happening at the first open, but I have a feeling we're going to see a different style bag from all cornhole that we're going to see Rubin and Trader throwing as this year goes on. All cornhole is also a company. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but they're a company. They've actually signed a pretty impressive group of pro players this year, and they lost Cheyenne Bubenheim and they lost Jamie Graham, probably their two best players they lost, but they filled them back up with Ryan Trader, Jay Rubin. They've got they brought in Alex Hicks and Caleb Batson, which both of those guys had a down year, a bad year last year. So it's curious to see how they rebound. I didn't put them on my list of players to watch. Interested to see how they rebound. Also another team that I'm curious to see what bag they throw, because they both have had a lot of success throwing a herringbone style bag, which so I'm curious to see, does all cornhole come out with a herringbone style bag? Probably do. I wouldn't be shocked to see them roll one out. Maybe they've got one already out there, and that's what they'll throw in Rock Hill. If they go to Rock Hill, we'll see. Also on the all cornhole team was Jimmy Humans and Ian Cripps. Ian Cripps has been there, but now he's partnered with Jimmy Humans. So all cornhole's got a pretty good lineup of players. They're really trying to make a statement this year in their pro players. Curious to see how well that team does as far as a group, not just their overall all cornhole team does, and if they can put bring all cornhole back to that elite level with those 5 or 6 elite bag companies out there. We're interested to see where that goes. The next player I want to watch is, or I'm interested in watching, is Brandon Earls. He's sponsored by Swag Bags this year. He played, for those of you who don't know, he was an ACO player previously. He actually was sponsored by B3 through the B3 Fatal last year. I loved watching him in the ACO. He's a player that has all the shots there. I think he's got the skill set to be one of the best in the game, and I'm curious to see how he progresses in the ACL. To see if his success from the ACO carries over and how well it relates. You see someone, we've seen players in the past go from the ACO, jump in the ACL, and jump right in, like a Jeremiah Ellis jumps right in, has immediate success, doesn't really have much of a fallback at all. I'm curious to see if Brandon Earls can step in and be a player like that. And I would not be shocked to see Earls come out and win one of these opens here in one of these first few opens. I think he has the skill set. He has the ability to do it. Curious to see what's going to happen. I'm guessing he's going to throw the Wicked or the Wicked L from Swag Bags because he actually threw the B3 Fatal, that herringbone bag. The Wicked's a pretty close bag to that. I got a feeling we'll see him throwing that. Maybe even something like the Chaos from time to time as well. So interested to see Brandon Earls, see how well he does. I was a fan of his when he was in the ACO, and I'm going to follow him, be a fan of his in the ACL as well. So curious to see that. The next one, the last team that I'm interested in is Matthew Creek Killer and Alex Ryan. They recently announced that they're partnered up and they're being sponsored by Stuff Cornhole, which is a huge signing. I think those are two phenomenal players, two players that can play at an elite level. I don't know if they've kind of had a down year or so, a downtime, but they were previously at that top level, and I think they can get back there. I think they have similar play styles, so I think finding a bag for them is not going to be a problem. I think they can mesh well together. I'm curious to watch them and see how they progress and how their season goes. I have a feeling that maybe that's a team that we don't really hear much about early on, but as the season goes on, if they can mesh well with their chemistry, I could see them coming on again and winning an open, maybe even making some noise in one of these signature events, as the season goes on later on into the 2025 season. So curious to watch the Creek Killer and Ryan, and those are the players that really initially that I've kind of seen and thought, I'm interested in seeing how they go. Curious to hear who are the players that you're interested in watching and why. Is there someone out there? Is there a new team you're excited to watch, or is there a player that has switched bag companies or change bags you're interested to see how they go? Drop a comment down below. Let me know what are the players that you're looking at, or the teams that you're most interested in and watching this year. The last thing I want to talk about is the Bag Makers Championship, and this is something that I thought about it. I've been thinking about it before in the past. I just never could figure out how to do it, and then last week I was on vacation and it kind of came to me that I think this is how I want to do it. So let me pitch this to you, and you tell me what you like and what you don't like about it, and how would you tweak it, or where do you think it needs to be tweaked. I don't know how many of you actually follow Formula One, F1 racing, but F1, there are 10 teams in F1, 2 cars per each team, so 20 cars that run each race, but their scoring system, only the top 10 in each race get points towards the Drivers' Championship, but they also have what they call a Constructors' Championship, which is the Car Makers' Championship. So the group of 2, they take the total points of both cars. So if one finishes first, one finishes last, they combine the points, and that's how each team gets points, and they do a championship based on each constructor and how they're doing. And that got me thinking, like, why don't we do a Bag Makers Championship? And we take how each bag regardless of the player, whatever that bag company does that weekend, we give them points and start ranking them. And in my head, my thought is, let's just do. I want to do take the top 10 at the open in singles, the top 10 at an open in doubles, and we do points. And I think to make it simple, like the F1, it's like 25 points for first, 18 for second, and it kind of steps down. I just think first place gets 10 points, second place 9, third 8, and just go right down until 10th gets 1 point, and just do it that way. But my twist on it is I want to just take the best performing team or player from that company instead of taking their combined. So if Alex Rawls and Derek Holland go out and place first in this first open, and Jamie Graham and Jacob Trzynski go out and place second in this first open, AAR gets first place points. They get 10 points for first. They don't get the 9 for second. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to try to make this as fair as I can between the big bag companies and the small bag companies. If you take every, like if I took both first and second for AAR and they got that, it puts these smaller companies at a disadvantage who don't have the volume of pro players that these bigger companies do, and they may only have one or two elite teams. They may not go 4 or 5 or 6 deep on their teams or even on their singles players roster. So by taking just the top one, I think that's going to help balance the playing field out a little bit. Now, in Formula One, there are 4 elite teams. You got Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull. They're the 4 elite teams, and then the other 6 teams are fighting for, you know, 5th through 10th, right? They're fighting for what's left. They don't really have a shot at the first 4. And I have a feeling that if I do this throughout the entire season for the ACL, there's going to be 5 or 6, probably 5 or 6 bad companies at the top, and then everyone else is fighting for the rest more than likely. But I think, and so that's why I want to take this and only do one team, one player, the best one for each bag maker, and that's the only get points. Now, it doesn't mean it's they still get an advantage, right? If Alex Rawls and Derek Holland finish first, Jamie Graham, Jacob Trzynski finish second, AAR only gets first place points, but no one gets second place because their second team finished second. No one gets second place points. So in a way, they still get an advantage. They're still preventing someone else from getting those points, right? And it's only the top 10. So if one company has 5 players, if we go singles, and one company has 5 players in the top 10, they're only getting credit for one, but that means there's only 5 other potential bag makers that could get points, right? Because I'm only taking the top 10 regardless, if that makes sense, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking we'll do it for the opens, singles, and doubles. Do it for the signature events. Maybe the signature events get weighed a little more heavily. Maybe I bump the point structure up a little bit or something. Maybe first place is 20 and go down to 10th is 1 or 2 or however that works. Maybe do 2-point increments instead of 1-point increments, because the signature events are the nationals. They are a bigger stage. They probably should be worth more. Maybe pro shootouts become worth less, or maybe pro shootouts only you have to be in the top 5, and you only get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 points that way. It's Formula One, again, they have sprint races occasionally throughout the year, and the sprint races, I think only the top 8 get points, and again, it's 8, 7, 6, 5, so it's not, whereas in a regular Formula One race, you get 25 points for winning, and a sprint race, you only get 8 points for winning because it's a shorter race. Maybe the pro shootouts are kind of like that sprint race. They're shortened down, less positions get points, and the points are less. The idea is to keep a standings of the bag companies, and after every open, kind of update that. And I'm picking the ACL first because, one, the ACL has less bag companies than the ACO, and there are fewer companies that actually sponsor pro players or have pro stamp bags for the pro players than what you have in the ACO. ACO is a lot broader, and the ACO has more majors, which is tougher to follow, and they don't always stream. Like, they had a major in Chicago this weekend. They had 2 majors, one in Atlantic City, one in Chicago. I don't think the Chicago one had any streaming, so it makes it tougher to figure out what bags or what bag companies sometimes those teams are throwing. Where the ACL, they stream all their opens, so even if I'm not able to watch it that weekend, I can go back and watch it later and get the information I need. Again, it's putting more work on me that I don't want to do, but I really feel like it's something I think would be fun to do, is to keep track of that. So what I'm throwing out to you is this is my idea of how I want to lay it out. Again, we can, just because the first opens is this weekend doesn't mean we can't tweak this and can't tweak the scoring system. So if you have an idea, let me have it. Let me hear it. If you have something you think is better or a tweak to what I've thrown out there, I'd love to hear it. If I didn't explain it very well, let me know. Maybe even after this first open, I'll put my rankings up and show you, give you more realistic examples and say, hey, this is the team that was first. This is the bag they were throwing. This is the points they got, and show you exactly what I'm talking about if I didn't explain it really well. But in my mind, I want to have an overall bag makers championship. Like Formula One, you have your driver championship, the driver wins, but then you have your constructor championship. And sometimes the driver that wins isn't always on the same team as the team that wins. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Curious to see in this bag maker championship which companies end up at the top. And in my mind, it's going to be those 5 or 6, maybe 7 elite, the big companies that are up there. But I am curious to see, is one of these smaller companies, is someone like an Ethan Walker with Cornhole Scenario, can he push Cornhole Scenario into the top rankings, and knock off some of those bigger companies? Can a Matthew Creek Killer and Alex Ryan work their way up into knocking down one of these elite companies? Like, that's what I want to see and curious. And again, it doesn't have to be the same player. Like, right. It can be it can be different teams. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which ultra team is first. As long as it could be this week. It could be Ryan Hart and Chris Roble finished first. The next Open, it could be Jeremiah Ellis and Devin Harbaugh. Either way, Ultra is getting first place points for both events because it's the team throwing their back. And in the case where mixed partners, for example, maybe a Jeremiah Ellis goes out and plays an Open with a Ryan Trader, right? Maybe for some reason they decide to get together. It's whatever bag they throw. That's the company that I'm going to give the points to if that makes sense. So it's more about the bag company and not the individual players. Just curious to see, more for fun. It may not work out the way I want, but I'm curious to try that. So again, curious to get your thoughts on that. You think is it a dumb idea? If it's a dumb idea, stupid idea, or you don't care, let me know that. If enough of you just don't care, I won't put the time and effort into doing it. But I am intrigued by it to see and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I want to get out of it. Like, I'm not sure when I get to the end and AAR is in first. Like, what does that mean? I don't know, right? I mean, maybe it just means they have the best pro players, not necessarily the best bags. I mean, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just intrigued by it. I want to see how that works, and I would love to see. I think it's a good way to promote the bag companies, right? It's a good way to give bag companies some mention, some airtime, because a lot of times we watch these pros, like we know we've all heard of Jamie Graham, but does everybody know he's throwing AAR this year, right? We've all heard of Jay Rubin, right? But do we know he's throwing all cornhole this year? Do we know what bags sometimes these players are switching up to, these players are throwing? And so I want to give these bags, because that, again, the heart of my channel is bag reviews. So there is a part of me that I want to support bag companies, because that's the more bag companies, the more bags are out there, the more reviews I can put out, the more content I have for you guys. So I'm trying to find ways to bring recognition to the bag companies. And I thought this would be a fun way to do it. Share your thoughts with me on that. Again, I've dragged on too long, probably rambled too much, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. And that's all I have for today. Again, I tried to make this as positive as I can. So for those of you who say I'm a hater, I hope you're happy. I hope this is more positive and better content for you. Now there will be, I'm sure the next time I get out there, I'm going to have some critiques about the Open in Rock Hill that the ACO ran. I'm sure that the ACO has a major as well. I had some critiques about this past weekend, but we'll leave that for another time. Again, staying positive here. So anyway, as always, I thank you guys so much for your support, and I thank you for watching.